Hello witches, today we're going to be talking about 5 of the most toxic and deadly plants linked to witches throughout history from the family of the nightshades. If this is something that interests you, stick around because it's coming up right now. Hi witches, happy Magic Monday. Thank you for being here today. I'm super excited to share this video with you. It took me a lot of hours and a lot of reading and a lot of researching just to gather these 5 plants and to gather the information that I'm going to share with you today. These are plants that have been linked to witches throughout history. They're poisonous plants, they're toxic plants. And one of you guys, my friend Lily, asked me to share a video with you guys talking about these plants, how to handle them, which takes me to my first warning in this video. This video is going to be for entertainment purposes only. This is not a guideline for you to learn how to deal with these plants. If you indeed end up working with any of the plants that I'm going to share with you today, please make sure to thoroughly research the plant that you're about to use. Because, my dear witches, every single plant that we're going to talk about in here today are toxic and, in worst case, deadly. So let's talk about the 5 sisters of the nightshade family and the Solanacea, and I may be butchering that name, so let's just call them nightshades, okay? Because I tried to learn how to pronounce this name, so let's call them, my dear witches, the nightshades. If you're new to this channel, my name is WhiteRaven and I welcome you. Thank you for being here today. If you like this video, please make sure to share, like, and comment. I need your help in order to move in the world of YouTube. I am a witch and I'm here to teach you things about witchcraft. I want to be for you what I wish I had when I started. So please do not leave the video, witches, without liking and comment. And if you're not subscribed, make sure that you do so. Well, witches, I went into a rabbit hole and I am so excited that I did. I cannot wait to study even more. This is going to be the first part of 2 videos. Today we're going to be talking about the nightshades, and next week I'm going to be talking about other very common herbs that we use nowadays in magic, and they're poisonous. Many of us, we go to the botanica, we go to the spiritual shop, and we buy all these herbs, and we don't even read. And some of them end up being toxic, poisonous, maybe for you, maybe for your dogs, your animals. Some of them, especially the ones that we're going to talk about today, are deadly. So it is very important for me to share this video with you. I thought it was extremely interesting and I'm very happy to do so. So shut up, WhiteRaven. Let's just start with the video. Before I go ahead with the video, I think it's important that I share with you some of the books that I use for my research. Some books that I think are extremely helpful and important if you're a witch and if you like to do witchcraft and create spells. These books you should have at home. The first one that I'm going to share with you is an oldie, but it's one of a kind. I still haven't found a book this good nowadays. And it's a Scott Cunningham Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. So in this book is going to give you a very extensive list of herbs, and many of them are going to be poisonous. He also has in the back of the book a health codes used with herbs. Now, the herbs that he had listed in this book have letters as codes next to them. And this chart back here is going to tell you what those letters represent. So this is something that I found extremely helpful for you to understand the dynamics of some herbs with people, okay? So I strongly recommend that you have this book at home and you go through it. It's very, very good. Another book that I found extremely helpful, and this is mostly for history and gossip about the plants. This one, Wicked Plants, very helpful, funny, has really crazy stories about the plants. Really enjoyed this book and I also recommend it. And the first book that got me into this, to be honest with you, was this one, Botanical Curses and Poisons. Really interesting book, guys. This was the book that actually got me into this rabbit hole. And of course, I also got this book, Plants That Kill, with beautiful graphics and pictures. highly recommended. This is more like a scientific book. And the last book that I'm going to share with you is a book that I consider a 10 out of 10 book when it comes to this matter. And it's called Witch and Herbs by Harold Roth. If after listening to all the things that I have to say today, you decide to work with any of these plants, I highly recommend that you purchase this book and that you have it with you and you read it thoroughly. He shared with you how he works with 13 essential plants that you need in your witchcraft garden. At the end of the day, it's going to be entirely up to you if you don't work with these plants, because needless to say, they're extremely dangerous. But if you do, at least you're going to have a very incredible information from every single plant that I'm going to discuss with you today. Not only lore and folklore, but also spiritual meanings in his experiences with the plant. This is a 10 out of 10 book. I am so lucky to have this book. All right, witches, so without further ado, let's start talking about our toxic plants. I have some notes over here, so if you see me looking down, it's because I want to refer to my notebook to make sure that I'm telling you the correct information. I'm going to share with you 5 members of the nightshade family. And obviously, these 5 members of the nightshade family are going to be toxic and deadly plants. They're going to be poisonous. All the nightshade family, they contain this substance that is called alkaloids. Some alkaloids are safe for human consumption and some other ones are toxic, deadly, bad for human consumption. Popular members of the family of the nightshades is going to be tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, eggplants, and many other things that we commonly eat, consume safely on a daily basis. However, there's some other members of this family that are detrimental for humans. And you know, when you're in the middle of your video and you have to stop because somebody's mowing the lawn, and you just have to wait. That's me right now, waiting so I can finish my video. Let's start with number 1. Atropa Belladonna, deadly nightshade. This is one of those herbs that have been linked to flying ointment with witches. And as a curious fact, the name Atropa belongs to one of the 3 fates, those 3 sisters that have in their hands destiny of man. It happens to be that Atropos is the one of the sisters that cut that line between life and death. She is the inflexible, the one that ends everything. So the name alone should tell you to stay away from this deadly plant. Atropa Belladonna is known as probably one of the most poisonous plants known to man. And then she looks so very harmless, witches. There is much lore and folklore, histories and legends linked to this plant. Atropa Belladonna is also linked to Hecate and Circe. And some of the known magical uses for these plants was for astral projection. I'll be honest, witches, I have never seen any spell containing Atropa Belladonna. It is something that maybe at one point was very linked to the witches, not necessarily to spells. Maybe there are some spells that include Atropa Belladonna from a long time ago, but perhaps because the plant is so poisonous and so toxic, they have been hidden throughout history. And who knows, grimoires and book of shadows of witches that maybe some of you have nowadays. The truth of the matter is, witches, that I am yet to see a spell with Atropa Belladonna. According to Harold Roth, the qualities of these plants are unpredictability, ambiguity, tricksiness, and an indicator of the crooked path, which is obviously the path that us witches follow. My opinion, this is a baneful plant, and this is something that I will use for strong, baneful magic. And having said that, I want to warn you, witches, if you are going to use Atropa Belladonna for any of your curses, be very mindful with the type of curse that you're going to do with Atropa Belladonna. Because you may think you are shooting a bullet only to discover that you have launched a missile. Which is every part of this plant is toxic. All of it. from head to toe. So please make sure, do not ingest. If you touch the fruits, make sure you don't put your hands in your mouth. Again, a handful of the belladonna berries will kill a human, and it is known that at least 2 berries of Atropa belladonna could potentially kill a child, let alone our dogs, our cats, or pets. Some of the side effects of Atropa belladonna poisonings are rapid heart rate, dilated pupils, delirium, vomiting, hallucination, and death due to respiratory failure. Be very careful with this plant, witches. Know how to handle her before you actually work with it. Number 2, the one and only Mandrake. Oh boy, that plant is so popular. So popular. Everybody knows the Mandrake. Yeah, let me tell you something. It's very hard to plant. Very hard, all right? Does not belong to the United States. It's not native of the United States or of this side of the world. And it's very difficult to grow. The Mandrake, it is also linked to flying ointments. Something curious about the Mandrake, there's a lot of folklore also behind the Mandrake. They say that the Mandrake scream once you pull it out of the ground, having that scream killing whoever it is that is pulling it out of the ground. There is so much lore and so much to know about this plant that in Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet, by drinking a potion laced with Mandrake. Because Mandrake, back in the time, used to be consumed as an aid for you to fall asleep. There was a time in which they used it as anesthesia and many other uses. But the truth of the matter is, witches, that it's toxic. Now, you can touch the Mandrake, but you will get in a lot of trouble if you put or ingest in any way Mandrake. Mandrake is linked to Hecate as well, and is also linked to Hathor, and has been used throughout history. And it's very popular actually in the Bible for fertility. Other people use it for protection, for money, for love, for health. And Romans used to think that mandrakes used to cure demonic possessions. And because the root of this plant sometimes can look like a human, you can use the root of the mandrake for puppet magic. Now, let me tell you, witches, good luck to you if you find an entire mandrake root anywhere in the United States. And you're going to see a lot of mandrake in spiritual shops. Again, they're used for different things. And the most popular use is for fertility spells. Please make sure that you do not ingest this in any way, shape, or form. No teas, not sipping, not chewing. Please make sure that you're careful with your hands when you put it in your mouth after handling a mandrake, because you can potentially become intoxicated with the poison and the alkaloids of this plant. These are some of the side effects of mandrake poisoning: dizziness, dry mouth, flushed skin, palpitations, nausea, drowsiness, tachycardia, blurred vision, vomiting, diarrhea, and coma. And eventually, depending on how much, you can potentially die. Again, if you decide to work with mandrake or any of these nightshades sisters, make sure that you educate yourself and you research how to handle this potentially toxic plants. Wow, number 3. And I think this is one of the wickedest plants, and I like it. I like it. But this one right here, she's just a little bitch. This is none other than Jimsonweed, Datura, thorn apple. What a nutty girl this plant is. I shared a picture with you guys the other day. I was doing my walking in one of the parks where I take my hexes and my curses when I need to bury stuff. And there she was. She was 100% dry, but there she was. Ominous. The seed pods were open and they look like open mouth, ready to just snap at you. Jimsonweed, what a nutty herb. So much lore behind the Jimsonweed. This is one heck of an herb, and I am very attracted to the Jimsonweed. Now, this plant is evil. She's just mean. She's just so mean. And she is toxic. Everything that is out of the ground is toxic. The roots are the least toxic of this plant, but everything else, particularly the seeds, are 100% toxic. Now, I have seen many videos because I went into the rabbit hole checking every video out there on these plants. And I've seen many people touching Jimsonweed with their bare hands. They do clarify and specify that the plant is extremely toxic, particularly the seeds, witches. Seeds can kill you and it's not going to be pretty. So please make sure that if you work with these plants magically, you know how to properly handle them. According to Scott Cunningham in his book, it's good for spells on hex breaking, spells on sleeping, spells on protection. Also, according to Harold Roth, Jimsonweed is great for binding spells, particularly because the fruit could be used when it opens, it could be used as imprisonment. So you can do binding spells with it. Interesting facts about this plant. The name Jimsonweed is directly linked to Jamestown's here in Virginia. Also, Jimsonweed is directly linked to the lore of Haitian zombies because witches, Haitian zombies, that's a thing. That's just not movies. That is real stuff. So I found it really interesting. I found that information in this book. I just thought that was a very interesting fact. Jimsonweed is everywhere, grows everywhere. It doesn't smell very good, as far as I know. Witches, do not ingest this plant at all. Don't do it. And handle with care. Every part of this plant is 100% toxic. These are some of the side effects of being poisoned with Jimsonweed. Thirst, flushing, fever, blurred vision, altered mental state, tachycardia, coma, and death. And let me tell you something, that altered mental state is delirium. And when you study what delirium is not a pretty state of mind because you don't know you are hallucinating or tripping, for lack of better words. You are truly believing and living what you're seeing in your brain. It is not a pretty state of mind, which is stay away from it. Some people make the stupidity of using this as a recreational drug. Do not do it. You take the risk of yourself. So be very careful with this nasty little plant that I am so attracted to. Let's get into number 4, Henbane. Listen, something that I learned with all these plants, that anything that ends in bane is bad because bane literally means killer. Henbane is another one of those plants that is linked to the flying ointment. This is a very curious plant. It is linked to maybe Hades, the god of the underworld. It is used for love bringing, for prophecy. You can use the pod for binding spells. You can use the pods to break up to lovers. Now, believe it or not, some parts of these plants are burned as an incense. And obviously, if you ever burn any incense with any of these plants, make sure you do it outside, not inside, because you may be very susceptible to the alkaloids in that plant. But some of the parts of these plants is burned in incense to call angels or demons, and also to help spirits manifest in the smoke. Pretty wicked, if you ask me. It is important that you use gloves, which is when you are handling henbane. As far as I know, the smell of the flower of henbane can give you the worst migraine. So please make sure that you treat this plant also with respect. Some of the side effects of being poisoned with henbane are loss of muscular control, dilations of your pupils, heart palpitations, hallucination, and delirium. Delirium, again, is not pretty, which is coma, and eventually you can die. So needless to say, witches, be very respectful of henbane. And last, which is number 5, the plant that has killed the most people in our world, tobacco. Tobacco is also a sister in the nightshade family. And we're not talking about just necessarily smoking witches. We're talking about the plant, the tobacco leaf. The magical uses for tobacco are healing, purification, offerings, and is also a substitute for sulfur, Datura, which is Jimsonweed, or Atropa Belladonna. Now, we all know that tobacco is very sacred for natives, particularly in the use of rituals. The leaf of this plant is so toxic that has taken 90 million people's life and counting. Steeping or chewing, eating leaf of tobacco will simply kill you, witches. No, we're not running around this. Will simply kill you. As a matter of fact, workers that harvest this leaf can develop an occupational illness called green tobacco sickness. So at that level, witches, even touching the plant, like if you are cropping the plant, even being close to this plant will actually make you ill. Tobacco was so important that it was used at one point as currency. At least in Virginia, it was used as currency. And it was also used as a payment to the spiritual world for their assistance and their help. The side effects of being poisoned with tobacco are stomach cramps, sweating, difficulty breathing, seizures, and death. So I tell you, witches, if you are going to be working with tobacco, be extremely careful because tobacco is absolutely 100% ruthless. Now, when I'm talking about tobacco here, witches, I am talking about the leaf, the wild tobacco. However, tobacco that people smoke, it is also tobacco. It has been cured to have milder effects on the people that consume it. But make no mistake, the alkaloid in tobacco, nicotine, will kill you. Either if you smoke it, which we already know this, or if you mismanipulate the plant. So be very, very mindful with tobacco. Well, witches, and that's it. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope you found this video extremely interesting. Please check out the description of the video because I'm going to put a link to all the books that are sharing here today. I think it's really important that if you're a witch, that you have the knowledge of plants. Make sure, listen, right now with our phones, if you go to Google and you put Google Lens, you can take pictures of things, of the plants outside in your backyard, and Google will tell you what they are. And you'll learn about the things that you have in your backyard because you do not know how many deadly things you can possibly have in your backyard. Needless to say, witches, we use herbs. That is Witchcraft 101. It's part of our everyday magic, herbs. Please make sure that you learn. Whenever you're doing a spell, make sure that you research the herbs that you're using, not only for their properties, but also for their toxicity. Make sure that if you're touching an herb, where to put it, should you breathe it, should you touch it, and don't ever put your hands in your mouth when you're dealing with herbs. And as a matter of fact, that also includes essential oils. So please be very aware, okay, which is important. Check out the books. And if you have any questions, email me at layerofthewitch@yahoo.com. And next week, I'm going to share with you a list of other plants that are even more common in witchcraft, and they are toxic. You didn't know. Today, we share the top meanest plants that we have in witchcraft. So if you have any questions, go ahead and email me at layerofthewitch@yahoo.com. Don't work for people. Remember to visit my platforms, say Facebook, Instagram. I'm also on Pinterest. Check out my website, WhiteRaven and witcheslayer.com. Witches, if you like that video, please make sure to subscribe to my channel, give me a like, and tell me in the description of the video. I'm very interested to know, what do you think about herbs? What stories do you have about herbs? What herbs should I talk about? Are you interested in specific herbs? All right, make sure to study, witches, because not only knowledge is power, but it can keep you safe from very dangerous things. And out of all, witches, we gotta stay so very wicked. See you next Monday. Bye.